flowers bloom in spring. Tell me who gives the air that you breathe. Ooh. Everything that you need he will provide, so you may as well come on and give him a try. 'Cause he's awesome. Ooh, he's awesome. He's awesome. What would I do without him? Couldn't make a move without him. I don't wanna be without him. He's awesome.
Greetings, people of God. Welcome to ZMR Ministries. I'm Pastor Z, and thank you for joining me for another episode of What's the Issue Wednesday. Now, tonight's topic is going to touch a lot of, especially our ladies' hearts, but even men who are dealing with confidence about their weight. Today's topic is thick or slim, confident still. And we're going to be talking about the process of finding confidence at whatever weight that you are in, the journey in, the highs and lows of low self-esteem, lack of confidence, and how you found your balance and your love for yourself and your body. So today, I'm sitting here with none other than my friend, someone who I call my sister. She's so dear to me, and she's also a nutrition specialist. Please help me welcome my guest, Bridget Broadnax. Hey, Bridget. Thank you for joining me, y'all. I love Bridget. Like I said, she's my friend. She's my bestie. And so she sat here with me, and this is totally out of her comfort zone. So I thank God that you're here. But I want to talk about this topic because it's so special to you, right? And I know it's something that you have dealt with and you help other people deal with, right, being a nutrition specialist. So we know that we live in a self-conscious world where image is everything. Why are you so conscious about your weight?
I think a lot of times, weight is something that's seen and can be viewed from a standpoint of when you're a child. So for me, it's very dear to me because that was something that was kind of implanted in my head when I was younger. I always was an athlete. So you have a bigger shape. You're a little bit bulkier sometimes. And instead of it kind of being brought forth in the sense of you're muscular or, something like that, it was you're bigger than everybody else. So sometimes it's a terminology that's used when you're telling someone about their physique. A lot of times athletes, because they are more toned, some people may say, oh, for women, they look like a man.
Right.
And, and that can cause issues, that are there. And even when you grow up, you realize you still continue to carry that with you. And it can cause a sensitivity. But I think also, because of the world that we're living in right now, all you see is pictures of, to me, are not realistic. Right. Because a lot of times Photoshop has become a lot of people's best friend. Even too, we were looking on the website at clothes. And if you look close enough, those ladies really don't have on those clothes.
Right.
They've Photoshopped the clothes on them. And then they've also enhanced their physical attributes.
Their assets.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think with the social media, people are now always comparing themselves to somebody else.
Right. And so when you think about your journey, did the insecurity start when you were playing sports in high school, or did it derive from childhood?
I would say mine derived more from childhood. Because it was always brought forth kind of like to me as well as you're so much bigger than everybody else.
Right.
You're so much bigger than everybody else. Yes, I am so much bigger than everybody else, but then too, I was bigger than a lot of people in my family, and not as in weight, but as in height. I outgrew my mom probably by middle school. I outgrew my older sister, most definitely by high school.
Right.
When you look at it, I was probably about 165, 165. I want to say in high school, but I only had 14% body fat.
Right.
So I was muscular. I was actually in really good shape. But if you don't really understand those type of measurements, it can be put off or misconstrued as you're bigger. And when you're comparing yourself to someone that does not have your body structure or your body shape, because there's so many different structures and shapes. For some people, they may be more bottom heavy. Some people more top heavy. So the way you carry your weight is going to look much different than somebody else.
Right.
So you can't compare me to somebody who's not even shaped like me. So you get to thinking in your head like, okay, I am so much bigger. I am so much bigger. That I want to say even for this yearbook. I know I'm here. You know, at least in sports or, you know, something that you're going through. I had to read the names in the yearbook because I looked over myself. Because in my mind, I thought I was obese. I thought I was like 400 pounds on my 500 pound
600
life.
pounds.
Yeah, 600 pound life. You know, that was on there, and I was just like, I'm so huge. I was so big, and I was very insecure in regards to what I wore, because I was so cognitive in thinking that I'm so big.
Right.
You know, I can't wear things that are form fitting because my form doesn't fit. You know, when you think that. And sometimes it's this mental picture that you painted of yourself of a mental picture that someone else has given you.
Right. And you know what? You said something earlier in concerning society's way of body image. And you know, I've been there, especially as a woman, where you go to the doctor, you get on the scale, and they basically told me you're obese.
Morbidly
obese. And she was just like, you know what, this is your height and this is the chart. And so of course it passed all the green, the yellow, the orange, and then it was in the red, and she's like, you know, you're at risk for high blood pressure. And I'm like, lady, are you kidding me right now? I may be a little thicker, but I'm definitely not morbidly obese.
Correct.
And it's because we have society has fashioned an image of what health looks like. And we have it in our minds that when you see somebody skinny or thin, that they're healthy. And that's a big misconception. So I want you to touch on that, because there are so many people who believe that, and you know that's not true because of your nutrition background.
I think a lot of people, because of social media, and I think as well as people are going off what they see.
Right.
And right now what has been given to us is that, if I'm running 7 miles, I'm healthy. That doesn't mean you're healthy. You may have high cholesterol.
Right.
Just because you're running 7 miles doesn't mean you're healthy. And we're going off of what we think we look like. Because I know some people that are in there 200-300 pounds. They don't have cholesterol issues.
No, nothing.
They don't have high blood pressure. But when I'm looking at them, I say, oh, I know I'm in better shape than them.
Yeah.
No, you're not. I started off at 24 on blood pressure pills. And there wasn't a reason why I was on it. It was genetics. So sometimes because of genetics, people are just predispositioned to have health concerns, which is why it's so important that you control your weight, because that's the beginning of it.
Right.
And even too, because someone is skinny, that doesn't make you healthy.
No.
You can have all types of pre-underlying conditions because you don't eat properly. And that's because I'm skinny. I don't have to eat like that. My metabolism.
I was going to say my metabolism. Right.
I'll just burn it up, not realizing you're not really burning it up. Your body structure is just slim. And a lot of things that we look at, we think it's the numbers on the scale. It's not necessarily the numbers on the scale that says you're healthy. It's also the inches. It's how your weight is distributed. So if I have a lot of weight in my stomach area, it's closest to your heart. Which is why it's more important, because now you're at a higher risk of having a heart attack.
Right.
Versus somebody whose weight may be distributed, say, down towards their thighs. You know, there's just different ways of distribution. And the same thing as well, if like you were saying, my weight, and they give you this chart. BMI, body mass index.
Yeah.
And I cringe every time somebody wants to tell me my body mass index. One, as African American women, that is not based off of us. It is not based off of our body structure. That is not an accurate reading. And 9 times out of 10, when you go in there, they're going to tell you that you are obese.
Not just overweight.
No,
obese. Yeah.
And I mean, at where I am right now, and I'll share my weight, I'm 195. I'm still considered morbidly obese because they tell me, oh, you should be at 160. At 160, I look like I need to be in somebody's hospital. You know, because that is just too thin for my structure, because I have a larger structure. And you really have to come to a place to where you feel comfortable. You know, within yourself. Can I breathe it this way? Can I go up and down the stairs at this way? And sometimes when you lose so much weight, you lose your energy. So just because there's a piece of paper that's telling you, oh, you should be 145, you should be 150, or even if you're looking again at social media, you're comparing yourself to someone who may have enhanced upper body
Right.
that may have had some things sucked out.
Yeah.
You know, you have no idea if they really lost that weight naturally or did they have some help. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with getting help. It's okay, you know, in some instances it is okay to get some help. But a lot of times we found ourselves comparing to other people.
Or at least unrealistic ideas.
Yes, to what it is. And a lot of times, I've even asked, because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, just in correlation to body shaming. You know, do you really think that the subject of body shaming, of course we know it's real, but, you know, do you think we more so body shame ourselves than other people do it to us?
I think a lot of it does start with self.
Yeah.
Because one, I'm seeing all these photos of these beautiful women, you know, that's out here on my cover girl, in this two-piece swimsuit, you know, and even for the longest, runway models.
Right.
And of course, there weren't flattering names to bigger clothes. You're in the husky section. You know, you're in the big and tall, you know, where you have these nice flattering names, you know, normal, average, you're above average.
Petite.
Yeah, those type of names, right? So you kind of feel embarrassed, like, can you tell me where the husky section is? You know, everything else, and it's not flattering. There's not terms of endearment, and a lot of times when a lot of people are explaining or telling, when they say describe, when they're giving a description of someone, it's never really, and it's very rare you hear when they're describing someone that's bigger. You know, well, she looks nice for a big girl.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like, well, are big girls not pretty? You know, and who are you to say what big and beautiful is?
Right.
And you know, there's no terminology when you sit there and people just say, oh, she's pretty. But no, you say, oh, she's big and beautiful. You know, it's like you have to put beautiful behind big or related to that in order for you to be beautiful.
Or for it to be acceptable.
Right, to be accepted. And a lot of times we put that pressure on ourselves because for the longest there was a picture of a woman that was given to you.
Right.
And it's saying, okay, you had to have 36, what is it, 36,
26, 36, 24, 36.
36,
Yes.
Coke, bottle shape, you know, everything else. So if you did not have that, it was kind of like you're lesser or you're not as pretty. And I think that's what has kind of led internally to a lot of people having eating disorders. Because I'm embarrassed to eat in public. I don't want them seeing me eating this whole entire plate, especially if I am overweight. I don't want to eat in public because people are watching what I'm eating.
Or even if you don't eat it all, they're like, you know, she want to eat the rest.
Right.
It's always ridicule.
It's something. And I think a lot of it, again, is internally where we put this pressure on ourselves because we want to be accepted in society. And I mean, even at the same time, when you look at it as in relationship-wise, sometimes you think, oh, he only likes the slim girls. And that's what you see in movies. That's what you see on social media. They always going after the tiny waist with the real big booty, you know, everything else. And you're just like, well, I don't look like that, so he's not going to want me. And you start comparing yourself to somebody else, and you're adding that pressure to yourself. And I've actually talked to a man that said, a lot of y'all ladies fail to realize, well, we don't want that. We just want to look at that, but we don't want real. I mean, Kendrick Lamar put it the best. Show me some stretch marks. And it's okay. Sometimes, you know, embrace your stretch marks because they are there and that's your journey. But the main thing is you want to make sure that you're having a healthy journey.
And so when you think of body shaming, Bridget, what's your personal experience with that? Have you ever had any people, like, typically or particularly body shame you personally?
Like I said, sometimes for me, it was, like I say, mine started a little bit younger as a journey. And I really don't think, I love my mom, but I really don't think she realized, you know, some of the things that she was saying
was hurtful.
Was hurtful, and it carried over. And to her, she wasn't saying something that was hurtful. It was just her observation. You know, and again, it was that comparison where it's like, you are so big. You just so big. And you know, in my mind, I'm just like, well, I can't help I'm this big.
Right.
You know, our whole family big. You know, and it's just like we weren't really big. We're thick people.
Right.
You know, very full people. And sometimes we have a cousin who's very slim. You know, and again, it's the body structure that you have that from that point on, I became very sensitive about.
And self-conscious.
Yes, very self-conscious, very sensitive to where, again, when I was going through college, it maybe took me at least 10 years before I really started feeling comfortable to say I would wear something that is form-fitting, because I was so conscientious of, okay, you're not where you need to be. You're bigger than her, and you're bigger than her, and you're bigger than her, to where you start comparing yourself to everybody that's out there, and you put so much pressure again on yourself. And then to even when I was dating, I was talking to a guy, and he just looked at me, and he was like, look at you. And the first thing in my head was, that thought there, I was like, yeah, look at me. And he was like, you are so beautiful.
Plot twist.
But, yeah, and I was already there like, oh gosh, why is he even looking at me?
Right.
Here we go. He's going to tell me what I need to fix. But in his eyes, he was like, you're beautiful. I mean, look at you. And I'm like, yeah, look at me. Because I didn't believe it. So it was, regardless of what he felt at that moment, I couldn't even embrace that.
Right.
Because I did not believe that. And then there was another relationship where it was the complete total opposite, where I had started losing weight and I was feeling good about myself. And I was like, I really did it. I lost this weight and I wanted him to celebrate with me. And you know, so I'm sharing this picture. Look at me, I'm out, I actually dressed up like this. And all he could say was, I see you haven't been working your triceps out. And now I'm like, what?
Another blow to my esteem.
Yes. Yeah. And it took me back to all those years ago that I just worked so hard to get out of, and it takes you back to a place to where now you're back in the mirror looking at yourself like, well, no, I really haven't been working my triceps. Okay, I have to get back in the gym. Okay, I do have to do this. And the whole time you're trying to put this front and this facade of like, oh, that didn't bother me. Oh, I'm good. But if you're real with yourself, yes, it did.
And you know what? You typically tend to throw it out there before somebody has a chance to say something. So Bridget knows usually I'm a lot slimmer, right? And so in these last few years, the older I've gotten, it's not that I just sat around and got fat. You just look down and you're like, okay, where does this extra 40 pounds come from? And so when you're using, because being in the film world, you know, not just ministry, but being an actress, you know, it's kind of the expectation of keeping yourself slim. So you're more marketable, you know, you can get more movie roles. But I did this film, when was it, like 2 years ago? And we shot, and I didn't even feel the pressure to lose weight. I was just like, look, my character is fat, period. And they were laughing, they was like, oh no, you're good. I was like, look, I just want you to know, I'm not doing that. And so, you know, what happened was when the cast started kind of reuniting, because it was a sequel, you know, you just kind of put it out there. So it wouldn't be a whisper, or, you know, you wouldn't have to face someone accidentally hearing it. And it wasn't a blow to my confidence, because I don't struggle in that department, right? I don't. But at the same time, we all have insecurities. And so there are things that I take note to, because it's my body. I'm like, oh my God, you know, I have this back row. Oh my God, you know, I need to wear waist training. Oh my gosh, I need to do this, I need to do that. But you can still have insecurities and be secure. And I don't think people know that. I think they tend to believe, or we as people in society tend to believe, if you have insecurities, you're insecure. If you have things that you don't like about yourself, you don't have any confidence. And it's very possible to have insecurities and be very confident. And so the reason why I said that is because I want to know, when you said I started my journey to losing weight, you know, what was the deciding factor to do that? Was it something personal where you were like, let me get ahead of the game before somebody else starts realizing, you know, and I think I know the pinpoint of it.
I say, you know what it was.
Yeah, I want you to tell it though.
The first thing I want to say that made me say, what happened? We went to a party and we took a picture. She was I said, who is that?
Right.
I looked, I was like, oh my gosh. I knew my clothes were fitting kind of tight, but I had no idea that I had gained this much weight.
Right.
And it wasn't, the pictures don't lie. You
No,
know,
they
they don't lie.
Listen.
What you see in that picture,
That's it.
That's what you look like. And, you know, I really sat there and I looked at myself and I said, oh, you gotten too big.
Right.
You know, because I didn't like the way I looked at that point. Not what everybody else thought, because really at that point, nobody was saying anything to me. Like, I see you done gained some weight, you know, nothing like that. Nobody was saying that.
Well, I remember I made a comment. Now, it wasn't that
I
nice.
blocked it out.
It wasn't that nice. I mean, what? She like, wait a minute, what you finna say? She talking about which one. But I remember, and I didn't mean any harm when I said it. I'm very blunt, y'all.
Yeah.
And I remember when I said it, we were in the car, and she was so upset with me. She was like, I can't believe you would say something like that. And I was like, I didn't mean it that way. I was just saying, you know, this is something you may want to work on. And so I know just all of those things pieced together. It was more so like later on I learned my lesson, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna shut up because she got really angry. But when you started that journey and you looked at that picture and you're like, okay, forget what anybody else is saying about me. I need to work on myself holistically. Yeah. Not just my weight, but my confidence, my esteem, you know, these insecurities that I carry. How did you start your journey? Because, you know, of course you're a nutrition specialist, right? And so you tend to say, I know how to do this. Yeah. And so with you being a nutrition specialist, did you take a traditional route of working out, eating healthy, or did you move into one of these fad diets where you're like, okay, I'm gonna jumpstart and then I'm gonna kind of smooth it out?
I've never done a fad diet. And I can't stand by it. I've never done a fad diet.
Right.
That works for some people.
Right.
It's not my recommendation to do a fad diet because it is what it is. It's a fad. And the thing is, if you never teach yourself how to eat properly, and if you never teach yourself the correct things to do, as in having a workout regimen, or this is a habit that you have to make, as soon as you reach your goal, you're going to go right back to what you were doing before. Yeah. And a lot of these fad diets are actually not good for you long term because they're actually reversing what you're trying to do. So sometimes some people may say, okay, I'm going to do the keto diet. Make sure you research that to be sure that your body can take a keto diet. Right. Because you're adding a lot of fat. So if you already have cholesterol issues, a keto diet is not for you because you're clogging your arteries even more. So the thing is, if you need a quick fix because I'm trying to fit into a dress, you know, something like that, then a fad diet may be for you. Right. But if you're looking for a long-term something that you need to stick with, it's a habit. So for me, it's a lifestyle change. And one of the first things that I did, and a lot of times with my friends or I'm helping clientele, do not say a diet. Because what are the first three letters in diet? D-I-E, diet. And I'm a die trying not to eat sugar. I'm a die trying not to smell your McDonald's burger. You know, sit here, be real with yourself. And it's a lot of times I tell people, if I want it, I'm going to eat it. But I know if I'm going to eat it, I'm either going to have to work out an extra hour, depending on what I ate, or the rest of the week, I'm going to have to not eat these type of things. I'm going to have to eat salads. I'm going to have to eat grilled chicken instead of fried. You know, certain things that you're going to have to trade if you want it. Having a balance. Yes, it's a healthy balance. I don't encourage anyone to cut everything completely out unless it is a health concern. Where you can no longer digest it or you just don't need it at this point because it's becoming detrimental to your health. But I say you don't treat yourself. It's okay to treat yourself. If I want an ice cream cone, I'm gonna eat my ice cream cone and be happy. And dare you say something. You know, I don't need you to remind me, you know, you're not supposed to be eating that ice cream. You're not supposed to be eating this. You are correct. I'm not supposed to be eating it, but I'm eating it today. You know, but you do need accountability partners. Because if I'm eating it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning, you know, at this point, then I do need you to say, hey, you know, where are you at with your goals? And it's not saying I thought you wasn't supposed to be eating that.
Ooh.
You know, it's a question, where are you with your goals? You know, have you been meal prepping?
Right.
And those are those things. For me, it was planning. If you don't plan, a lot of times you'll fail. Right. Because now I have to get something that's convenient. And we know a lot of times convenient food is not healthy for you. Yeah. And you know, as well as convenient food that's not convenient is more expensive.
So how did you make that transition? Because I know there's someone watching and they're like, okay, I saw myself on a picture or video, you know, I looked at myself in the mirror today and I'm like, girl, okay, we're done. But making a conscious decision and actually implementing that in your life are two totally different things. It is. And we think once we make up our mind, which is true, you know, then we follow through. But the walking it out is difficult. So how did you transition after seeing yourself in that picture where you made a conscious decision and said, I'm changing this now? What was that journey like?
The initial, I saw myself. And then I set a goal for myself. And I set a realistic goal. Right. It wasn't, I'm going to lose 60 pounds. I need to lose 10 pounds. Right. I'm giving myself 2 months to get to these 10 pounds. Or it was a pant size, because I try not to get caught up on pounds. So for me, it was saying, okay, I want to get down to a size 12. Right. You know, and then I started saying, okay, this is what I need to do. And I even reached out to a trainer. And it was the initial, I said, okay, let me get a trainer to jumpstart me back. Right. And I took pictures and basically just my underwear. Because I want a real picture at this point. Because I feel like you say, when I have a roll, if I see one of these rolls disappearing, that's a celebration. Oh yeah. You know, if I no longer have to tuck my bottom good, I'm excited. You know, when you're sitting there. Right. And those are the small things that you can't see them if you're covering your body. So it is a real picture that I took of myself physically to see where I needed to be.
And if I could just interject for a second, y'all, pictures, I'm telling you, that right there will bless your life more than a scale. Because there are times when I'm like, okay, Bridget, I'm about to lose weight. And see, I'm a fad diet person. It's a shame that your best friend's a nutrition specialist. And she gets on me all the time, but that ain't gonna stop me, right? And so I take these pictures, and what I do is I put them side by side. Because looking at yourself every day, you don't see a change. You don't see a difference. You get discouraged. You're like, okay. And then us as women, our bodies go through so many changes. It's like so it's like one day you wake up and you're like, oh, yes, I'm losing weight. I have no belly this morning. And then you go drink a spit of water and you're like, I'm fat. Oh my God, it's not working. And it's like your weight fluctuates because of water weight, because of bloating, hormonal, stress. Our bodies chemically, you know, deal with different components of our life in a different way physically. And so what tends to happen is, if you don't have those pictures as proof, then you say it's not working and you tend to give up. Yeah.
Yes, and that is part of it's a comparison where you look at it, because sometimes the scale is not going to tell you what the picture shows you. And when you can see progress, and that's the main thing, I can actually see progress. Right. It encourages you to continue. And even at the same time, I had to do a mental check too. So I had to ask myself, okay, what happened for me to even be able to get this far? How did I let myself get here? Right.
What's the source?
Right. So what was going on? And you know, there were some things where I was just tired. Right. You know, I was just like, I'm just tired. And I didn't want to get up and go to the gym. I didn't work out. There weren't any complaints, and I was happy and eating. Not realizing that, Bridget, you gained like 40 pounds. Right. You know, and you're sitting there, and I felt uncomfortable.
And it sneaks up on you.
It does.
And you know what? A good breakdown, Bridget, I remember someone told me this. They said, you know, Zanya, when you think about gaining 40, 50 pounds, you know, you're thinking, oh, it took me a long time to do this. And they say, if you're just gaining 1 pound a week, that's 4 to 5 pounds a month. Over 9 months, there's your 40. That's in less than a year. And then we turn around and we want to lose the 40 in 30 days.
It won't happen.
Or if it happens, it may not be healthy.
Right. It may not be healthy. If you want to be able to keep the weight off and do it in a healthy way, it might be 2 to 4 pounds a week. Might be.
Right.
It may be 1 pound. But it's also inches.
Right.
You know, you may be losing 4 or 5 inches. You know, that's what I'm saying. Don't concentrate just on the pounds.
Right.
And you didn't gain all that weight overnight. So don't put the pressure on yourself to lose it overnight either. And that's okay. And you have to give yourself affirmation too. That is one thing that I had to learn to do, was to learn to be comfortable in my body. And that was something I had to tell myself, Bridget, you look good. You know, each day I got up, I wasn't happy because I wasn't happy at the weight I was at.
Right.
But I had to learn to be happy in myself where I was at that time. So I was okay with being myself at that time and saying, okay, Bridget, you're not where you want to be, but I'm not where I used to be.
Right.
And that was even the same from a mental standpoint. And now once I'm mentally able to be in tune with what's really going on inside and internally, now I can work on my physical side. Because if I'm not mentally there, I can't get myself up to go to the gym.
Right, and unhealthy habits. You know, you get to the core of that. You know, stress eating, or what's some other ones? You can just
stress eating, eating late, again, eating empty calories when you're there because you find yourself snacking. And that's one of the things people fail to realize, even like when you go out to a restaurant, sometimes skipping the chips and salsa.
Right.
You have already gotten rid of, say, 150 calories that's there. Because I'm really not hungry. I'm just eating it because it's in front of me. And that's even too when you're in the office or you're just out somewhere hanging. A lot of times we're just putting something in our mouth. So that's one of the things that you want to do, is put healthy snacks there.
Right.
So instead of having candy and empty calories, you may want to have nuts. You know, something that has good fat in it. If you like avocado, eat the avocado.
Right, that's a healthy fat.
It is a
I
healthy
learned
fat.
that. She taught me that.
Yes, it's a healthy fat. You know, so it's substituting other things and putting healthier options there, and that'll start the journey along. Because really and truly, weight loss, 80% is your diet. 20% is the workout. Because you can already start to take, your body is already uncomfortable at a certain weight. So once you make up in your mind and start saying, okay, I'm gonna make this one change this week, your body will already start responding. And saying, okay, I can start losing it. And when you plateau, when you're sitting there, now you have to change what you're doing.
And you know what, Bridget? I cut you off in the middle of your process, your journey. She's like, But you were saying that you got a trainer. You made a conscious decision. And another one that you brought out was self-affirmation. So you just said that the most difficult thing that people tend not to master is the eating part of it. How did you get that intact?
Meal prepping was one thing. I started meal prepping my food, and it's portion control. So whereas, say, I would eat a whole entire steak and baked potato and dessert and broccoli. You know, that was there.
With a glass of wine.
Yes, with the whole glass of wine. You know, it was there where I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and portion my food out. I'll eat half of the steak. I'm going to eat a sweet potato instead of a baked potato. You know, when it was there, and I would say, okay, this is all I'm eating right now. And then when I would get hungry again, then I would eat the rest of it. So it was being conscientious of the things that I was putting into my mouth, and sometimes logging your food. When you see it and say, this is what I ate. And sometimes you get tired of writing down what you're eating. You say, I don't feel like writing that. But you have to be honest with yourself too, and take a look at it and say, okay, I'm really going to write down what I ate. You know, and again, it goes back to what you drink too. Unless you're drinking water, you're adding calories back into your system. Yes, sugar, and the diets are just as bad as a regular. So even if you're saying, well, I'm drinking diet, it's just as bad. In fact, sometimes it's worse than a regular Coke. You should just drink the regular Coke.
Now, one thing I will say is at the time of her journey when it started, we were roommates. And so I want to get into accountability because you said that. And it's not getting everybody on board. Like, I'm on a diet now, or I'm on a lifestyle change, and I'm starting this journey. I need everybody to be on this journey with me. How do you help people get that accountability without forcing everyone around you to be on the boat?
Yes, because I didn't force y'all to
No, you didn't. No,
I did not.
But I did enjoy her meal prepping, because that means I got to eat. You know what I'm saying? So I ate her meal prep food.
Right. And I mean, that's part of it too. You have to look at it, this is my journey, not your journey.
Right, right.
So if she gets up in the morning and works out, that doesn't mean I'm getting up in the morning to work out.
Right.
And what I'm trying to do is different than what she's trying to do. So you have to realize this is for me. And if I need someone to hold me accountable, you have to find someone that's on that same journey as you, which is what I would do. Because at the time when we were living together, I was getting up at 5.
Yeah.
And I was meeting 2 other people in the gym. And sometimes link yourself up with someone. I didn't have the money to pay a trainer at that time. But my resource was I knew how to meal prep. So my trainer told me, you prep my meals, I train you.
Right.
Because he didn't like to cook.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. We traded our specialties and our services in order to get what we wanted. Because he was training for a bodybuilding contest. He didn't want to have to portion all that stuff out. So I wanted you to get the weight out for me. So I'm going to take my time to portion everything out. You know what you have to do. And that was my journey. That wasn't their journey. And that's even the same thing with my daughter. I don't force her to say if at one point I was eating vegan.
Right.
Completely vegan. I didn't force her to go vegan. I still prepped chicken for her. I still prepped fish for her. You know, because that's what I'm doing right now. Now, if she chooses and wants to go that route, then that option is there for her. I will let her try my food, but I didn't force it on her.
Right, and you have to do what works for you.
Yes.
Because, you know, Bridget, she grew up an athlete, right? And I didn't. And so what she likes to do as far as a workout, I'm like, I ain't doing all that.
Right.
And so things that I will do, because I am a beach body fiend, right? And for a while, I was a gym rat. Like, I was in the gym all the time. And, you know, I had built up this body, and I'm telling you, I was immaculate, right? And then, clearly, I'm not. Don't get it twisted. I still look good, but I'm not near where I was. But I like plyometrics and insanity. You know, I do a lot of Shanti, and Bridget was like, I don't have anything to prove. You know, and I'm like, you're pretty much doing the same things that I'm doing, but you're just in the gym with a trainer. And so it was like, instead of, you know, conflicting, saying, you know, you should do this, or that's not going to work, you have to do what works for you.
Right.
Right.
And that'll make you stick with it.
Right, right.
Because you enjoy doing that. So there would be some things that I would do with her. The ab.
Right.
You know, we would
the
do
walking.
That.
She did the walking
I
all the
would do
time.
the walking.
Yeah, Leslie saying something.
Yes. She had me walking at 5.
Right. 5.
Yes.
5
we would do 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to work out with me, we can find something in common. You know, but if not, then I go with where I feel like I'm going to get the most out of it. And for me, I identify more with the gym because I was an athlete.
Right.
So we were always in the gym. So I like to lift weights. You know, running on the treadmill is my thing.
Right.
But if you get me outside on the track, I'm like, I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to run the track, but I'm better at running in the gym.
Right.
And it was a comfort zone for me. And even speaking in the gym, it can be intimidating for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are in shape, don't talk about the person who's overweight that's coming to the gym.
At least they're trying.
They are trying. I get excited when I see someone who, you know, is overweight and they're in there giving it their all, and the treadmill might be going 2 miles an hour. But I'm excited to see that you even took the step to get in there and to get this treadmill to go 2 miles an hour, because that was the first step.
That they're
was to
moving.
get in there.
Right.
Yeah, it was. I actually decided to come in here and to start my process, and it's a start.
Yeah.
And for people who are used to coming to the gym, you know, they're going, don't laugh at them, don't talk about them, don't stare at them, because now you could be causing more hurt to this person.
Right.
And the thing is, you don't know what it took for that person to even go in there. You don't know what it took for that person to say, I don't care if anybody looks at me. I'm going to do this for myself. And that is the main thing. You have to figure out self. Why am I doing this? is this important to me? Because one of the things, again, why I took a look at myself, I already knew high blood pressure ran in my family.
Right.
I knew I was on high blood pressure pills. And for a lot of people that don't know, when they give you medication to treat some things, it's breaking down something else. So I knew eventually, if I couldn't get myself off these blood pressure pills, I would be on dialysis soon.
Right.
Because it's breaking your kidneys down. And I have a daughter, and I started thinking in my head, now you overweight, so it's not genetics that's causing your blood pressure. You are unhealthy. You're unhealthy at this point.
Yeah. You know what, Bridget? When you were at your largest, did you ever feel like a hypocrite? Because you're a nutrition specialist, and I would see you meal prep for everybody else, and I mean, people would give you great reports, great reviews. Thank you, Bridget. You would watch their journey. They're in shape now, and then you were still struggling with your own. Did you ever feel hypocritical, being in your position and helping other people on their journey to health? Because I'm telling you, I would hear her give the whole spiel. I mean, she would just give them their whole nine, not just cooking the food. She would help them understand what it is that she's cooking, why she chose this portion, what's going into it, this is how you season it, I put it on this. I mean, she gets really happy, y'all. And so during that time, did you ever feel like, you know what, I'm a hypocrite because I'm helping everybody else and I can't even help myself?
I'll give you an honest answer, no, I didn't. I did not. And I tell people all the time, because a lot of times people want to point out to you, like when I would be eating something.
Right.
Oh, well, you shouldn't be eating that, that's everything. And my response back was, doctors smoke.
Right.
They know they're not supposed to smoke, but they still smoke. What are you doing that you're not supposed to be doing?
Right.
Because to me, I'm like, yes, I do know what I'm supposed to do. But at the same time, I'm human. I wanted it. Life happened. And life happened, and I didn't realize life was happening. So for me, it was something that I was not consciously doing.
Right.
So I woke up one day and looked at a picture and was like, you're 250 pounds. And one thing I do feel blessed, because a lot of times, because of my height, a lot of people didn't know I was 250 pounds. In fact, it helped me win a lot of dollars for my baby at the carnival. I didn't mind stepping on that guess your weight, because they were like 185. I'm like, wrong, 220.
And you know what? And your build plays a big part of it. When I tell people I weigh $180, people look at me and they're like, no, you don't, because I'm longer. My torso is longer. I have long legs. I'm only 5'4". But I see other women who are 5'4" who are more voluptuous, and when they are 180, they look more like 220. And then I'm walking around and I'm $180, and people like, you lying. I'm like, no, for real. I look at it every single day. And so the way that your weight, like you were saying earlier, is distributed plays a big part. Because I don't know if you've ever seen this. I seen it on Facebook, where you line up these women and they all weigh the same, but they're all different heights, they're all different body types, and it didn't matter that they followed the same diet, did the same exercises, drank the same amount of water. At the end of the whole program, they still all looked very different. Some looked more fit, some looked like they were a little more bloated. It was just different for everyone, and I think that's important to keep in your mind so you won't put too much pressure on yourself.
Right, because I'm not going to look like you. You're not going to look like me.
Right.
And depending on how my weight is distributed will determine what I'm going to look like at the end of my journey.
Right.
And sometimes it also depends on what you're eating, as well as how you're working out. Because if I'm doing a lot of cardio, it's going to look different than if I'm doing weight training.
Right.
And that's something else you have to decide. What are your weight goals? Right now, am I just concentrating on losing weight, or am I concentrating on toning?
Right.
So you have to decide, where am I? What is my goal? And one thing I say, you have to constantly set different goals.
Right.
When you reach one, set another one. And it may be a different goal that you have at that time. But in going back to saying, do you feel like a hypocrite? No. Because one, again, is my journey. This is what I'm embracing at the time. And again, a lot of times, life happens. And you give people, I don't want to say grace. In a sense too, I need that grace just like somebody else, needs that grace. Just because it's your job and you go through it every day, that doesn't mean that you're following what you're supposed to follow.
Right.
You know, a lot of people like to say, a lot of people, I know I'm not supposed to drive drunk. You know, and you could be an officer.
Right.
I very well know the parameters of what can happen when I drive drunk, and you still get pulled over driving drunk. You know, people say, well, you knew better than anybody else. Right, I did know better than anybody else, but at that moment, that's not what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
You know, that's not what I was thinking of, and it's okay.
So you have a daughter.
I do.
You mentioned her earlier, and of course I know she has a daughter. That's my boo. But I've seen, you know, over the years and how you're teaching her different eating habits. What are some of the things you've already instilled in her? You know, because a lot of times we as adults have unhealthy eating habits. You know, and it's because that's the way that we were raised. That's how we ate. And I understand a lot of times, you know, especially in the Black community, we eat a lot of more unhealthy foods because it's what we can afford. Right. And so you're just trying to feed your family and trying to buy a bunch of greens. Eating healthy is expensive.
It is expensive.
It's expensive. And sometimes people just can't afford that.
Right.
So you do what you can. So I'm not knocking that at all. But what I have learned is in the Black community, you know, we have all these unhealthy eating habits and living habits. And then what happens when we become an adult, we're trying to unlearn and undo all of those eating habits. Whereas when you start them as a child, then as they get older, you know, that's all they know. So what are some ways that you have shifted Alana's, you know, eating habits where she's looking at a healthier her?
So one of the first things I've actually done, one is mentally for my daughter.
Right.
I give her affirmation all the time. You know, she's gained a little weight herself with COVID.
It's that quarantine 15.
And, you know, and the main thing that I've even told her, the way I spun it off was, I said, hey, we got to get back to moving. Because we have high blood pressure in our family. You know, your mama has it.
Yeah.
And one thing I don't want to happen to you is that you develop it at an early age, because they're seeing a lot of kids developing this now. And I was like, baby, mama wouldn't be able to live if I know that I'm causing you to have high blood pressure because of what I'm giving you.
Instead of you saying you getting a little chunky. You
right.
Come on, let's go run.
Yes, I'm not gonna tell her that. And being honest, it is me controlling her diet. So it's what I'm feeding her and what I'm giving her. So the main thing is to let them try new things, and you can try it with them. Allow them to kind of find out what's good for them, what they like. And I mean, I started her at a younger age in trying like spaghetti squash. And a lot of people are like, well, what is spaghetti squash? Well, it's a squash.
And you made it fun.
Yes.
You made it fun. I have to add that because, you know, I'm putting myself in the boat with her daughter. Because I can be real picky, right? And I told y'all we were roommates for a while, but I done got excited. I done cut off. When she's introducing these new things, you know, she introduces it in such a way where you're like, oh, well, yeah, I want to be exposed to that dish. I want to try that, you know, and now I'm sitting here with her daughter, you know, like, okay, Mom, I want to have a pulling it right.
And to, like she's saying, making it fun, let them help. You know, and interact, and then kind of let them see it in a video.
Right.
Let them see other people eating it. Even when you go to the grocery store, allow them to pick something out. Look up a recipe that y'all can do together, because now she's invested in it and saying, okay, well, I did this. I helped with this. We ate this, because it's also a bonding thing for both of you guys. Right. Where you're sitting there and also you're learning something new. Because again, it goes back to like the spaghetti squash. Nobody really knew what that was. And
if I can just be honest, I was a little scared to try it. She was like, no, it's really good. I was like, girl, I don't even like squash. And he's sitting up here trying to give me some spaghetti. So, you know, I tried and I was like, girl, when you gonna cook this again? It was really good. But I love that, you know, that dynamic that you have with her, especially not making her feel bad about the extra weight. Because when I turned about 10, I got real chubby. So from 10 till about 14 or almost 15, I was fat, you know? And so my family, bless y'all hearts, you know y'all weren't right. Their way of trying to get me to lose weight was talking about me. You know, anything I ate, it was fatty, you know, that's why you're so big. And they didn't know that was hurting my feelings. That didn't make me say, I want to lose weight because I don't want y'all talking about me. That put me in a space where I'm like, you know what, I don't even want to try.
Or I don't even want to come around.
Right.
Because I know y'all just gonna talk about it.
And I was a kid then. And so it wasn't until I got older that I asked them, I was past the hurt. And I was like, why did y'all talk about me? Why did y'all say that? That didn't make me, well, we just figured, we talk about you, you'll lose the weight.
You'll want to change.
And that is, y'all, listen, if you got a chubby kid, fat kid, whatever you want to call it, that is not the way to make them lose weight. All you're doing is adding more insecurities. You're adding to their bucket of low self-esteem. First of all, they know they're not like the other kids because I knew I was skinny like all the other kids. And then, the insecurity sets in. I was in that age where you're trying to, you get a little older, you're preteens, then you're a teenager. Boys are coming in the picture, because it's just a natural thing when you're growing up. And you notice that, the other ones are getting picked and they don't like me. It's because I'm fat.
Right.
And it's like, I love the way that you cultivate esteem in your daughter, and I see because you struggled with that growing up, that was something that you did not want perpetuated in her life.
And that is one of the things that I said. When I had her, I said, she won't struggle with this.
Right.
Because I knew what it felt like. And I was like, no, I know how long I've carried this.
Right.
So the main thing was, it was turning that around and finding positive things to say. And you can give a negative standpoint, but from a positive point of view.
Right.
It doesn't always have to be the way I deliver, and I say it all the time, it's how you deliver. I tell her that too.
All the time.
It's in your delivery. And for parents that have children, kids are mean in themselves. So there's a lot of times, I feel like it's my job to equip her with what she needs when she's getting ready to go out into the world. Because even when they're children, they're going out into the world. Yeah. And other kids can be so brutal, so mean. Yeah. Some of the things that they say are downright vicious. And it's breaking them down already. So now that I come home and I'm hearing I'm fat, you don't need to eat like this. Right. You just eat broccoli tonight while your sisters and brothers can have this because you the fat. And that now I don't have safety at school, I don't have safety at home, I'm just the fat. And people begin to identify with, I'm the fat. Right. And that's unhealthy. And that goes back to mental, that goes along with it, that you end up carrying along for years. For years. And sometimes that turns over into other types of abuse in life that you're willing to take. Some people it's drug addiction. Right. Because you're coping with it, whereas just the delivery may have been different. Right. And you can assist, and it's an early age at starting healthy habits. And like we were discussing in our culture, there's a lot of things that we cook with that are just so unhealthy for us. We have a high fat diet anyway, and that goes back to ancient times.
I was gonna say slavery days.
In slavery, that's what we were given, the last. That's what we had, and we made wonderful and amazing meals out of that. Because fat is a flavor carrier. So the thing is, I've had to find different ways to add flavor back. And those are natural herbs and spices and not
the
salts.
Alternatives.
Yes. And it's not the salt, because those diets that are high, for me, I have high blood pressure, so I can't take in that much sodium.
And I think, so, especially for people of color, we're afraid to let go of our seasonings because it's a part of who we are. Yes. It's a part of our culture. It's a part, when you think about Big Mama or whoever else cooking, you think of seasoned food. And so now you're taking away my seasoning. It's like, we ain't eat no bland chicken. We ain't eat no bland this. And it's like replacing it with a healthy alternative. Like the herbs or,
garlic powder.
Or like Mrs. Dash, they kind of come up, but I'm not really too fond of it. But it's really good because it's low in sodium. And so Bridget's like, no. But I'm just saying there are alternatives out there. Especially if you're trying to watch your cholesterol, especially if you're trying to watch your sodium intake. All of that helps. Now it may not taste as flavorful.
It's an adjustment. Yeah, it is an adjustment. So,
and you're retraining your taste buds.
You are.
Yeah.
And what you'll notice is that when you go back to eating something that was where you used to be, you won't be able to tolerate it.
Right. Your body gets sick.
You will get sick.
Yeah.
It'll get harder for you to go out to eat. And different things that you used to crave and you used to want, your body will begin to reject those things. And it'll be harder for you to digest those things.
And it kind of forces you to keep this lifestyle up. Because you'll get so sick, and we both been there, that you're just like, I don't even want to do that. I don't want to feel like that anymore. So, Bridget, I know we're coming, to a close in the conversation, but I want to ask you, do you believe that confidence is really truly a state of mind?
I think it is. To me, a lot of times, like I said, where I learned, I never really knew what I looked like. So I didn't have the confidence.
Right.
And that ran over into other areas in my life to where I felt like I needed to settle, in certain places because this is the best that I can do because of how I look.
Right.
So that is one of those things where you find yourself settling in life because I don't look the part. Or I just better be grateful because this is how I look. Nobody else wants me. And those are one of those things. It's not until you begin to build your own confidence. And it may be vain, or somewhere else, but one of the things that I used to tell myself, Bridget, when you get up today, you gonna walk by 10 people that wish they looked like you.
This is true.
And that's how I got myself going. Because I said, somebody wishes they had your problems.
You're somebody's goal.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is part of it. I want to lose, and someone else is saying, I just wish I was her size. And that could be a skinny person.
And you know what? It's so funny because I've been in the room with so many people and we're talking about our insecurities and oh my God, I get Zanya, I can't believe you got up to 180 and I'm like, yes, oh my God, I'm not used to this. Shunty, all of those things. But then when you start to listen around the room, it turns from, man, girl, I got these back rows. Girl, no, you didn't. I got, you want me to show you a back row? And it's like we're encouraging and uplifting each other in a way that doesn't seem typical.
Right.
But it teaches you or it shows you that no matter what, you're somebody's goal weight. You get what I mean?
Right.
You're somebody's looking at you saying, if I can just be like that.
If I can get to that size, I'll be okay.
Right.
And I'm thinking if I can get out of this size. And again, it goes back to, like I was saying, even skinny people. Just because they're skinny, they may not be happy with their body. Right. They may be saying, I wish I had curves. I wish I had more. I want to gain weight.
And you know what? Body dysmorphia is very real.
It is.
There are some people, and nothing's wrong with them, and they look at themselves and they're like, I'm fat, I'm obese, and then that's where, the anorexia, right, all those, what do you call them?
Eating disorders.
Eating disorders. I don't know. I was saying fat disorder in my head, and I was like, that ain't it, girl. But, that's where a lot of that comes in, because the way you're viewing yourself, which is why I love that Bridget, touched on, or not touched, but really got to the degree of going more in depth. Like, let me deal with my insecurities on the inside, because that's what's affecting my outside. And a lot of people do it backwards. They get their weight down, and they're like, oh, okay now. But they're still dealing with those internal issues that they never got rid of. And so they may be in shape, but they're doing it because they're trying to silence the voice that's in their head. Instead of dealing with that voice, confronting that voice, overcoming that voice. And now you're doing this because you're doing it for a healthier you, not trying to prove a point.
Right. And that is somewhere where you say confidence.
Right.
It doesn't matter if I never reach my goal. Am I confident where I am? And that's the thing. Other people can read when you're not confident in yourself.
Yeah, it reeks.
And a lot of times you begin to make your friends feel uncomfortable. Because sometimes they feel like they have to downplay themselves in order to make you feel good. And you have to reach a point to where you say, I'm okay where I am. I'm not happy where I am, but I'm confident in who I am. And there's a change I want to make, and these are the steps that I'm going to do to make this change. And if it's, like I say, as simple as saying, okay, Bridget, when you get up today, you're going to pass by 10 people that wish they looked like you. I might not pass by these 10 people, but in my mind, I just pass by these 10 people. Right. And it's helping for me to build my confidence at that time. And it's even looking at myself and saying, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with this row. I'm comfortable with this row. It's okay. Let me find something that flatters my shape at this time. Because the way the world is right now, there is something for everybody.
Oh, yeah. There is somebody for everybody. You know, and I know it seems like, okay, those are two words, somebody, everybody, but when you break it down, where you're talking about your individual body, there's a body for everybody.
Yes.
And what you see as a flaw, somebody else sees it as beautiful.
Perfection.
And they don't care. Like Bridget said earlier in the conversation, we've had multiple conversations with our homeboys, and they're just like, don't nobody care about them roles. You know, it's all good, and you're just like, oh, I don't. You know, this is something I'm self-conscious about, and it's like, you know, it doesn't matter what anybody else say. It's a personal thing.
Right.
It's a personal thing. So Bridget, I want to ask you one last question. If you could go back and talk to your unhealthy self, now that you're at a healthier place, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, what would you tell yourself?
First, I would tell myself, you're beautiful. You know, wherever you are beautiful. And you just have to know that you're beautiful. This is temporary. You know, don't believe the things that were fed into you. And your beauty is not based on what the world tells you, nor on what your family has told you, and you're going to be okay. You know, that's the main thing, just consistency.
Right.
You know, hang in there. You're going to fail, but you're going to make it. So, you know, and you have to make it okay to say it's okay to fail. It's okay to be on a roller coaster, but you always got to get back on the ride again. And until you're happy with who you are, you just got to find out where your happy is and what is your goal. And continue to set goals that are reachable and measurable and attainable. And just be real with yourself. Just find your happiness with yourself.
That's so good. And even though I asked you that question, what would you tell yourself? I'm really glad that you're talking to the camera, because you're talking to all those people who are watching that are like, man, thank you, Bridget, for sharing your story. What you just did was speak into their life. And so now they think it's an achievable goal. They think it's attainable. You know, just the topic alone, thick or slim, confident still, period. And so you can see a lot of bigger women who are so confident, and you can see smaller women who are so insecure. And so whatever state that you are in physically, no matter what state your body is in physically, there may be some things that you don't like, but make sure here and here is healthy. And when those two places are healthy, then you can get this body healthy. And we know, of course, in the Bible, we know that our bodies are temples. And it is our responsibility to take care of these bodies. When you think about your purpose here on earth and the things that God has for you to do, you can't do them if you're not healthy. He wished that you will prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. And so it is our responsibility to take care of our temples, to watch what we're putting in our bodies, to exercise. And I'm talking to myself. You have to make it a lifestyle. Just like you read your Bible, just like you may go to counseling, just like you may go to therapy, you may quote affirmations, listen to things that feed your mind. You have to feed your temple the right things and take care of it, so that you are in a position to do the Lord's work, so that you're in a position to reach others. And it's not the Lord's work just in a pulpit. It's not just getting up preaching. You are a walking testimony to somebody. That's sharing your story. You know what? I was there. I watched myself in the picture. I didn't like the way I looked. I had to fix this. It derived from childhood. And somebody else has that story. You are watching and you like, oh my God, that is me, Bridget. You know, that's all the way me. I saw a picture of myself. I'm looking at myself in the mirror right now, listening to Pastor Z, and I'm like, oh my God. We've all had those moments. We've had breakdown moments. I mean, even on her journey now, where it's like, Bridget, you look good, girl. There are some times where we're just like, I don't feel good about myself, you know. And I'm like, Bridget, I went to the store. I bought 13 bags of strawberries and different fruits. I'm not eating anything today, and I'm just drinking smoothies. And by 6 o'clock that night, I'm like, well, you know, I went to Cookout and I got a shake and a burger and all of these things. And so it's like, don't set yourself up for failure. Give yourself grace. Yeah. Give yourself grace. And when it becomes a journey, you know it's ongoing. So there is no, of course, set goals, but your destination isn't over until you close your eyes. So make it a long-term journey over a lifespan, not just something that you say, I'm going to do this for 60 days, I'm going to do this program, and then that's it. Because then you have to do another program, and another program, and another program. And I'm telling you this because I know it for a fact it's what I do. And I'm not promoting that, but you know, if you're doing different workout programs to keep you in shape, beautiful. But if you're doing it because it's a fad and you're like, okay, this is going to keep me right where I want to be because I have to lose weight for this and I have to lose weight for, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So I pray that you heard Bridget. I pray that you take everything that she talked about in her journey and the nutritional tips. You know, finding those alternatives, you know, looking at things in a different perspective, dealing with the inside so you can see that manifest on the outside, and even seeking out other tools or resources to help you out, which is trainers, you know, meal prepping, those tools that you would need so you can be successful. Bridget, thank you so much for joining me. Y'all got some cool tips from my bestie, and I get it all the time. And it's so funny because you don't tend to appreciate stuff that's right there, and somebody else is watching and they like, oh my God, can Bridget be my friend? She ain't got room for no more friends. There you have it. But I appreciate you being here. I thank you for sharing your heart, your journey, and for being open because you really are helping somebody. Look, everybody. So today, what's the issue Wednesday? Next week, you know, we're right back here, another episode of What's the Issue Wednesday, another great topic, another great guest. I can't wait for you guys to join me. Now, tomorrow is Thursday. Y'all know what that is. We're walking the word. We got some fresh revelation. Y'all know Thursday evenings, we come together and we feast. We feast on the word of God. So I can't wait for you guys to join me. Thank you so much for joining on tonight, for supporting ZMR Ministries. I'm Pastor Z, and you guys have a blessed night. See you later.
Past is now behind me. Every tear I had to shed is working for His glory. I'm picking up the pieces and I'm moving forward. I'm trading in my sorrow 'cause my crying days are over. Today I'm moving forward. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So today